could be called poetic irony, Thomas Jefferson, in fact, had passed away hours before Adams on that day. Our third president, Thomas Jefferson, was also a founding father and the primary author of the Declaration of Independence, adopted 50 years to the day of Jefferson and Adams's death. Jefferson served in the Continental Congress just before the Revolution and served as governor of Virginia during the war with Britain. Post-Revolution, Jefferson found himself in Paris, serving as a diplomat to the newly minted nation. In 1785, he was named the United States Minister to France. During the presidency of George Washington, Jefferson was appointed the first Secretary of State, shortly before experiencing political and ideological differences with Washington. The election of 1796 saw Thomas Jefferson elected vice president to John Adams. The Electoral College named the candidate with the most votes president and the runner-up vice president, which often saw leaders who were at odds politically serving together as president and vice president. By the time of the next election, Adams had drawn much criticism as a result of the Alien and Sedition Acts, 4 bills passed by Adams during his term in office that were meant to quell revolution like that in France by arresting or deporting French immigrants and those who sympathized. Jefferson and the Democratic Republicans saw the acts as an affront to the principles on which America was founded, and the controversy is thought to have lost Adams his second term as president. Under Thomas Jefferson, the country saw great expansion with the purchase of the Louisiana Territory in 1803 and the expedition of Lewis and Clark the following year, which ventured into the uncharted territories of the American West. While Jefferson opposed slavery in his writing and speeches on the subject, he did not take action against it during his presidency, wishing, like Washington, not to divide the nation. Jefferson himself owned many slaves and only freed a few in his lifetime or in his last will and testament. He did, however, draft the Northwest Ordinance in 1787, prohibiting slavery in new states being formed. The first state established under this ordinance was Ohio in 1803, and in 1807 saw Jefferson sign into law an act that forbade the importation of slaves to the whole of the United States. Speaking 5 languages and having cultivated a healthy interest in science, invention, religion, philosophy, and architecture, an interest that aided in the construction of his home, Monticello, after Jefferson's second and final term, he founded the University of Virginia in Charlottesville. Opening 6 years later, the university was the first to offer a full slate of elective courses and was one of the first universities with a library at its center rather than a church, a nod to the principle of separation of church and state. James Madison is called the father of the Constitution, and not without warrant. He was a crucial proponent and the author of the Bill of Rights, and a key supporter of a checks and balances system which helped to shape the 3 branches of our government: the legislative, judicial, and executive. May 1787 saw Monroe serving as part of a convention that would shape the Constitution of the United States. Madison was working with many other founding fathers, such as George Washington, who outlined Madison's vision for the 3-tiered system of federal government. Serving as Thomas Jefferson's Secretary of State, Madison oversaw the Louisiana Purchase, effectively doubling the size of the nation. When he took office as president in 1809, the prosperity of America flourished for a few more years. As the country expanded, British influence over Native American tribes in the newly explored Midwest was perceived as a threat to American settlement of the area. This, combined with trade restrictions with France due to Britain's continuing war with the country, as well as insults to national honor on the high seas, led the United States into war once again with the United Kingdom in the War of 1812. Madison had been opposed to the war since before his first term in office, writing in 1795,
"Of all the enemies to public liberty, war is, perhaps, the most to be dreaded, because it comprises and develops the germ of every other. War is the parent of armies. From these proceed debts and taxes, and armies and debts and taxes are the known instruments for bringing the many under the domination of the few."
While the conflict settled many residual issues left over from the American Revolution, the administrative and financial weaknesses of the still developing Union were exposed. This reversed Madison's opinion on developing a strong national government and army, as well as the establishment of the National Bank, which he had previously opposed. After the War of 1812, the United States entered into a time of prosperity and political stability. A national bank plan was approved, as were taxation systems and a standing professional military. While in office, two new states, Louisiana in 1812 and Indiana in 1816, were admitted to the Union. Madison retired to his plantation home, Montpelier, in Orange County, Virginia, after his second and final term in 1817. When Jefferson passed away in 1826, Madison took over as rector, or president, of the University of Virginia, a post he held until his own death in 1836.
Thanks for watching. If you'd like to help us produce more compelling historical content like this, please like, comment below, and share this video with fellow history buffs. And of course, be sure to subscribe to help keep history happening.